The morning Earth changed forever began like any other. Sarah Martins sipped her coffee in New York Central Park, watching joggers pass by under the crisp autumn sunshine. The first sign that something was wrong came when every pigeon in the park suddenly took flight, their wings creating a thunderous cascade through the trees. Then the shadows fell. Massive shapes materialized through quantum rifts in the atmosphere, their obsidian hulls seeming to drink in the sunlight. The smallest of these vessels dwarfed the Empire State Building, while the largest stretched beyond the horizon like artificial clouds. Within seconds, every major city on Earth found itself under the same dark canopy. Emergency sirens wailed across Manhattan. Sarah's phone buzzed with alerts, but the screen only showed static. Around her, hundreds of people stood frozen, heads tilted skyward in collective disbelief. A child's ice cream cone hit the pavement, the sound somehow louder than the growing chaos. "This is not a drill," boomed a voice from every speaker, phone, and electronic device capable of producing sound. "All military personnel report to designated stations immediately. Civilians, please remain calm and proceed to the nearest shelter." The relative quiet shattered. Screams erupted as people began running in all directions. Sarah, a quantum physics researcher at Columbia University, found herself rooted to the spot, her scientific mind racing to process what she was seeing. The ship's architecture defied known physics. Their surfaces seemed to bend light in impossible ways. High above, the first F-35 fighter jets screamed across the sky, their pilots responding with remarkable speed to the incursion. Sarah watched as they launched their full payload of missiles at the nearest vessel. The projectiles accelerated toward their target, only to disappear against an invisible barrier about 50 meters from the alien hull. There wasn't even an explosion. The missiles simply ceased to exist. More jets arrived, accompanied by experimental combat drones. They tried everything in humanity's arsenal: electromagnetic weapons, tactical lasers, even experimental quantum-tipped warheads. Nothing penetrated the shields. The aliens hadn't fired a single shot, yet they'd already demonstrated complete superiority. That's when every screen on Earth, from Times Square's massive displays to Sarah's coffee-stained phone, flickered to life with the same image. The creature that appeared looked almost reptilian, with iridescent scales and multiple pairs of eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern. When it spoke, its words were somehow perfectly translated into every human language simultaneously. "People of Earth," the being's voice resonated with an unsettling harmonic quality. "We are the Drachnid Empire. Your world now falls within our domain. You have 48 hours to surrender control of your governments, military forces, and resources to our authority. Resistance is inadvisable. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your defenses cannot stop us. If you submit, you will be permitted to live as productive members of our empire. If you resist," the creature's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, "we will demonstrate why no species has ever successfully opposed our expansion." The transmission cut off, leaving behind a countdown timer showing 47:59:59 and counting down. In the following minutes, Earth's military forces continued their desperate attacks. Submarines launched nuclear missiles from the oceans. Space-based kinetic weapons platforms dropped tungsten rods at hypersonic speeds. The Drachnid shields absorbed everything without showing the slightest strain. Sarah finally broke from her trance and began running, not away from the aliens, but toward her laboratory. Her mind was already piecing together fragments of her research on quantum field interactions. The alien shields had to work on some principle of physics, and if they worked on physics, they could be broken. As she ran, more shadows fell across the city as additional Drachnid ships emerged from quantum rifts. They took up positions in a precise geometric pattern, like a web being woven across the sky. The message was clear: Earth was caught, trapped, and at their mercy. But they didn't know humans very well, and they were about to learn why that was a serious mistake. Dr. Amanda Walker hadn't slept in 36 hours. Empty coffee cups littered her laboratory at the Quantum Research Facility in Colorado, their bitter dregs growing cold as she hunched over a twisted piece of alien metal. The fragment had come from a Drachnid scout ship that clipped a mountain peak during the initial invasion, leaving behind precious samples of their technology. "Run the analysis again," she commanded her team, rubbing her tired eyes. The countdown on every screen showed 23:12:44. Less than a day remained before the Drachnid's deadline. Behind her, Dr. James Harrison shook his head. "Amanda, we've tried every conventional weapon frequency. Their shields just absorb or deflect everything we throw at them. Maybe we should evacuate while we still can." Amanda's response was cut short by an alert from her quantum scanner. She leaned closer, her exhaustion forgotten as she studied the readout. The alien metal was showing an unusual reaction to a specific frequency, not from their modern weapons, but from the background electromagnetic noise in the lab. "James," she whispered, her voice trembling with sudden excitement. "What's generating that interference pattern?" He checked the lab's systems. "Just the old backup generator. It's been acting up since yesterday, throwing out random electromagnetic pulses. We should probably shut it down." "Don't you dare." Amanda's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Look at this." Every time the generator hiccups, there's a microscopic fluctuation in the alien metal's quantum field. It's barely detectable, but it's there. The team gathered around her screens, watching as she isolated the frequency. The pattern was distinctive, a type of electromagnetic pulse that modern technology had phased out decades ago due to its inefficiency. But that same inefficiency, that raw, unrefined power, was doing something their precision weapons couldn't. The Drachnids evolved their defenses to counter advanced energy weapons, Amanda explained, her words rushing out. "They've created shields that can deflect quantum torpedoes, plasma beams, even nuclear blasts. But they never considered that we might use something more primitive." She grabbed her phone, fingers shaking as she dialed the Joint Chiefs of Staff. As she waited for the secure connection, a massive explosion rocked the facility. Through the laboratory's reinforced windows, they watched a Drachnid ship methodically demolishing Denver's downtown core, testing humanity's resolve before the deadline. "This is Dr. Amanda Walker," she practically shouted when the line connected. "I need immediate clearance to access the military's mothballed EMP weapon archives, all of them. And I need every electronics manufacturer in the country to start production within the hour." "Doctor, we've already tried electromagnetic weapons." A general's voice crackled through the speaker. "Not like these," Amanda insisted. "We're not talking about modern, surgical EMPs. We need the big, messy, power-hungry models we abandoned in the 2000s. The ones that were too crude and inefficient for practical use. That's their weakness. They never defended against weapons we considered obsolete." There was a long pause on the line. Another explosion illuminated the night sky. "You have 1 hour to prove this concept," the general finally responded. "After that, we'll have no choice but to consider the Drachnid's surrender terms." Amanda turned to her team, her eyes bright with determination. "James, get me the oldest, most unstable EMP generator in storage. Michael, start calculating field amplification patterns. Sarah, help me modify the quantum scanner. If we can prove this works on our sample, we might just save the world with yesterday's technology." As her team scrambled into action, Amanda glanced at the countdown timer. 22:47:19. She thought of her daughter Emily, evacuated to a bunker in the mountains, and all the other families hiding in fear across the planet. The Drachnids thought they had conquered humanity through superior technology. They were about to learn that sometimes the crudest solution was the most effective. The race to resurrect Earth's abandoned weapons had begun. The Situation Room beneath the Pentagon hummed with unprecedented activity. On the central screen, Dr. Amanda Walker's demonstration played on repeat, a crude EMP device causing a piece of Drachnid technology to flicker and fail. The countdown showed 18:33:57. "We need every factory, every electronics manufacturer, Every engineering lab on the planet working on this, General Marcus Reynolds announced to the assembled world leaders on the secure video conference. This isn't just an American operation anymore. This is humanity's last stand. The response was immediate. President Chen of China was the first to speak. Our semiconductor facilities are already being converted. We'll have the first prototype EMPs within the hour. Russian quantum labs are standing by, came the next reply. We're transmitting our classified EMP research now. No redactions. Around the globe, ancient rivalries dissolved in the face of extinction. Indian tech companies shared proprietary software with Pakistani engineers. South Korean robotics experts collaborated with North Korean military scientists. Brazilian manufacturing plants coordinated with Argentine research facilities. In orbit, the International Space Station became humanity's forward observatory. Commander Jessica Hayes watched through powerful telescopes as the Drachnid ships maintained their ominous formation. They're still not responding to any attempts at communication, she reported, but we're detecting increased activity around their larger vessels. They're preparing for something big. Back in Colorado, Amanda's laboratory had become the nerve center of Earth's resistance. Hundreds of screens displayed real-time data from facilities worldwide. Engineers from 67 countries collaborated on a shared virtual workspace, refining her original design. The Japanese team has improved the pulse frequency, James Harrison announced, pointing to a new data stream. And the Germans found a way to extend the effective range by 30%. Amanda nodded, her fingers flying over her keyboard. Tell Mumbai to adjust their output accordingly. And get me Santiago on the line. Their power grid modification could be exactly what we need for the delivery system. A warning klaxon cut through the bustling activity. On every screen, the Drachnid ships were moving, descending lower into the atmosphere. Their massive forms cast deeper shadows over Earth's cities. They're not waiting for the deadline. Commander Hayes' voice crackled from the space station. Multiple ships are deploying what appear to be landing craft. Ground invasion could begin within minutes. General Reynolds' voice boomed through the global command channel. All units, initiate Operation Thunderclap. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Around the world, millions of people moved with quiet determination. In apartment buildings, residents placed hastily assembled EMP devices in windows. Shop owners concealed larger units in their storefronts. Teenagers on bicycles distributed smaller versions door to door, coordinated by a makeshift app created by Venezuelan college students. The Drachnids, monitoring Earth's communications, detected the surge of activity. Their command ships broadcast another message. Your pitiful attempts at resistance have been noted. Surrender now, and we may still show mercy. In response, humanity showed its own unique form of unity. Social media platforms, transformed into command and control networks, coordinated global defense efforts. Retired engineers shared forgotten EMP designs. Gamers repurposed their hardware for tactical simulations. Even children contributed, their toys becoming concealment for the crude but effective weapons. Amanda watched the activity feeds with a mixture of hope and fear. Have we done enough? She wondered aloud. James squeezed her shoulder. We've done something they never expected. We've worked together. Every person on Earth knows their part in the plan. When the time comes, we'll show these aliens why you should never corner a species that thrives on impossible odds. The countdown now showed 18 to 33, but it didn't matter anymore. The Drachnids had made their choice, and humanity had made its own. The true test would come not from meeting their deadline, but from facing their invasion. And Earth was ready to reveal its hidden strength, the power of a planet united in desperate, determined resistance. The Drachnid landing ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like metallic raindrops, their surfaces gleaming in the morning sun. Each capital city had become a target zone, with the largest concentration of alien vessels hovering over New York, Moscow, Beijing, and London. In her Colorado command center, Dr. Amanda Walker watched the invasion begin through a wall of monitors. Her daughter Emily, who had refused evacuation, gripped her hand tightly. The countdown timer had stopped at 17:45:22. The Drachnid's impatience had given Earth an unexpected advantage. All sectors, maintain radio silence. General Reynolds' voice came through secured channels. Let them think we're paralyzed with fear. The first Drachnid transport touched down in Central Park. Its doors opened with serpentine grace, deploying heavily armored troops. Their movements were precise, methodical, the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. "Look at their formation," Emily whispered, her teenage eyes catching something the adults had missed. "They're protecting their command units. Those larger soldiers in the center. They're carrying something important." Amanda relayed this observation to the tactical team. Every piece of intelligence could matter in the next few minutes. Around the world, humans watched through windows and security cameras as the Drachnids established their initial footholds. The aliens' arrogance was palpable. They deployed minimal shields, expecting no meaningful resistance from a primitive species. In orbit, Commander Hayes gave the first signal. "Space station confirms. Their main fleet is committed to landing operations. Ground teams, you have go for Operation Thunderclap." The response began not with a bang, but with a whisper. In millions of homes, schools, and offices, humans reached for hidden switches. The crude EMP devices, disguised as everyday objects, hummed to life. Each one alone was insignificant, but together they created a rising wave of electromagnetic chaos. The first sign that something was wrong came from a Drachnid scout unit in Tokyo. Their personal shields flickered, then failed completely. The aliens froze in confusion, their multiple eyes blinking in sequence as they tried to comprehend what was happening. "All sectors, execute Phase 2, Reynolds commanded. The wave of EMPs intensified. Decades-old technology, considered obsolete by both humans and Drachnids, proved devastating in its simplicity. The aliens' sophisticated quantum shields, designed to repel advanced energy weapons, had no defense against this crude assault. Drachnid landing ships lost power mid-descent, crashing into empty streets. Their troops found their advanced weapons transformed into useless metal tubes. In Central Park, the command unit Emily had identified suddenly stood exposed, their protective fields evaporating. "Now," Amanda's voice carried across the global network. "Hit them with everything." Humanity's response was beautiful in its diversity. In Moscow, subway maintenance workers emerged with retrofit Soviet-era equipment, unleashing electromagnetic bursts that sent Drachnid soldiers staggering. Brazilian teenagers used modified game controllers to pilot salvaged police drones, harassing the confused aliens. In Shanghai, elderly engineers who had worked on the city's first power grid directed massive power surges through strategically placed conductors. The Drachnid command ships attempted to restore order, but their communications were drowned in the sea of electromagnetic noise. Their perfectly coordinated invasion dissolved into chaos as ground forces found themselves cut off from central control. "It's working," James shouted, pointing to the tactical displays. "Their ships are losing altitude worldwide. The EMPs are compromising their anti-gravity systems." Amanda watched as massive Drachnid vessels, each larger than an aircraft carrier, began dropping from the sky. They fell like the ancient gods of mythology, their invincibility proven false by human ingenuity. "Mom," Emily tugged at her sleeve, pointing to new data streaming in. "Look at their energy signatures. When their shields fail, they're not just vulnerable to EMPs, they're vulnerable to everything." Amanda's eyes widened as she understood. Humanity hadn't just found a way to defend itself, they had cracked the foundation of Drachnid military superiority. Phase 3 could begin, and with it, the true demonstration of human adaptability and determination. The streets of London echoed with sounds no human had ever expected to hear. The clash of makeshift weapons against alien armor, the crackle of repurposed electronics shorting out Drachnid systems, and the unmistakable roar of construction equipment repurposed for urban warfare. Sarah Martinez, the quantum physicist from New York, now found herself coordinating a most unusual combat unit. Her team had transformed the London Underground into a maze of electromagnetic traps, using the city's Victorian-era iron infrastructure to amplify their effects. They're falling back from Piccadilly Circus. Her radio crackled with the voice of Danny Chen, a former video game designer who'd reprogrammed maintenance drones into combat units. Their formation is breaking down. They don't know how to handle scattered resistance. The Drachnids had expected to fight a conventional war against military forces. Instead, they faced millions of innovative humans using their environment as a weapon. Every city had become a unique battlefield, with defenders adapting their tactics to local conditions. In Dubai, engineers had transformed the Burj Khalifa into a massive Tesla coil, sending electromagnetic pulses cascading down its height. The Drachnids' rigid combat doctrine had no protocol for dealing with a building being used as a weapon. Moscow Defense Hub reporting came a transmission to the global network. Their ground forces are attempting to regroup using backup communication systems. But these systems are predictable. They're following standard military protocols. Dr. Amanda Walker's voice responded from Colorado. That's their weakness. They've conquered so many worlds, they've never needed to improvise. Keep them off balance. Force them to fight in ways their training never covered. The battle for Earth had become a testament to human creativity. In Rio de Janeiro, carnival performers used their knowledge of the city's narrow alleys to lead Drachnid patrols into ambushes. Tokyo's delivery robots, hastily reprogrammed, created chaos in alien formations by darting between their legs with modified EMP devices. Emily Walker, monitoring global combat feeds, noticed a pattern. "Mom, look at this." Every time they lose a unit, the Drachnids try to compensate with exactly the same maneuver. They're not learning from their mistakes. James Harrison pulled up detailed scans of fallen Drachnid soldiers. Their neural architecture is heavily standardized. They rely on preset responses rather than tactical adaptation. It's made them efficient conquerors but terrible improvisers. This revelation spread across human resistance networks. Every city began exploiting the Drachnids' rigid responses. In Amsterdam, canal boats loaded with electromagnetic jammers disrupted alien communications. Paris metro workers used their maintenance tunnels to outflank the invaders. Even children contributed, their knowledge of neighborhood shortcuts and hiding places proving invaluable to resistance fighters. Update from Beijing. Commander Hayes reported from the space station. They've modified their subway system into an electromagnetic pulse delivery network. The entire Drachnid ground force in the city center just lost power to their exoskeletons. The aliens attempted to compensate by launching airborne reinforcements, but they faced a new problem. Human civilian pilots, flying everything from crop dusters to news helicopters, swarmed their landing zones. The small aircraft weren't a direct threat, but they scattered electromagnetic chaff that played havoc with Drachnid navigation systems. Sarah's team in London seized the opportunity. As a Drachnid command unit struggled with their malfunctioning equipment, resistance fighters emerged from underground stations, surrounding them with improvised weapons and jury-rigged EMP devices. "Surrender," Sarah called out in multiple languages, though she doubted the aliens would comply. "Your technology has failed. Your tactics are predictable. This is our world, and we know how to fight for every inch of it." The Drachnid commander's multiple eyes blinked in what might have been confusion or fear. They had never encountered a species that turned their own rigid perfection against them, using chaos and improvisation as weapons more effective than any advanced technology. The battle for Earth wasn't just being won with weapons, it was being won with human unpredictability, creativity, and the ability to turn any object, any space, any situation into an advantage. The Drachnids were learning, too late, why no battle plan survives contact with human ingenuity. Dr. Amanda Walker stared at the holographic display, her eyes burning from exhaustion. The captured Drachnid medical pod filled her laboratory with a soft, pulsing light. Her daughter Emily sat cross-legged on a desk nearby, analyzing data streams from the alien device with the intuitive ease of her generation. "Mom," Emily's voice cut through the quiet hum of equipment. "I think you need to see this." She pointed to a scrolling sequence of alien symbols their computers had partially translated. Their medical records, they're full of gaps where basic immunology should be. Amanda leaned closer, her scientific mind racing. "James, pull up everything we have on Drachnid biology. Focus on their environmental systems." The results painted an astonishing picture. The Drachnids, for all their technological superiority, had evolved in a nearly sterile environment. Their immune systems were practically non-existent, having relied on technology to create sterile environments for generations. "They're like children who grew up in bubbles," Amanda breathed. "They've never developed natural resistances. Their shields weren't just for weapons, they were environmental barriers." The revelation spread through the global defense network like wildfire. In New Delhi, microbiologists immediately began analyzing samples from captured Drachnid troops. Tokyo's research labs reported that even common soil bacteria could penetrate the aliens' minimal biological defenses. "This is Dr. Rachel Henderson from the CDC. A new voice joined the global conference. We've confirmed it. The Drachnids have no immunity to Earth's microbial life. Their bodies have never needed to develop these defenses. Even non-pathogenic bacteria that humans encounter daily could overwhelm their systems." Sarah Martinez, coordinating with the London team, quickly saw the implications. Their ships, their armor, everything they have is designed to stop physical and energy weapons. But they never considered microscopic threats because they've engineered their environments to eliminate them completely. The human resistance shifted into high gear. Microbiologists worldwide began culturing harmless bacteria that could quickly disable Drachnid forces without risking human health. Agricultural specialists provided insights from soil science, showing how natural bacterial colonies could be enhanced to penetrate alien environmental systems. Emily, still scanning the medical data, made another discovery. "Look at their respiratory systems. They're incredibly sensitive to certain compounds that we barely notice. Things like..." She paused, double-checking her findings. "Pollen." Amanda couldn't help but laugh. "They came to conquer Earth without realizing our planet's own ecosystem would fight back. Every spring allergies that annoy humans could completely incapacitate their troops." The Drachnids, struggling to maintain their invasion force, noticed the humans' renewed activity. Their command ships broadcast warnings about biological contamination, ordering their troops to increase shield strength. But it was too late. Their forces had already been exposed to Earth's microscopic defenders. Multiple Drachnid units reporting severe respiratory distress. Commander Hayes reported from the space station. "They're trying to evacuate affected troops, but their medical facilities are being overwhelmed. They've never dealt with anything like this." In her lab, Amanda watched as a simple demonstration proved their theory. A captured piece of Drachnid technology, exposed to common soil bacteria, began to deteriorate as microscopic life forms colonized its supposedly impenetrable surface. "Their entire civilization is built on the assumption of sterile environments," James observed. "They've created amazing technology, but they've also made themselves incredibly vulnerable to the most basic forms of life." The Resistance quickly incorporated this knowledge into their strategy. Around the world, humans began using simple aerosol sprays containing harmless bacteria to drive back alien forces. Parks and gardens, which the Drachnids had ignored as strategically irrelevant, became no-go zones for their troops as natural pollen and microbes filled the air. "We're not just fighting them with weapons anymore," Amanda told the Global Command. "We're fighting them with 4 billion years of terrestrial evolution. Every microscopic organism on Earth has become part of humanity's defense force." The Drachnids had come expecting to face primitive weapons. Instead, they faced an entire planet's biosphere, aided by humans who understood how to use it. Their greatest weakness wasn't their rigid tactics or vulnerable technology. It was their complete isolation from the natural processes that had shaped life on Earth. The captured Drachnid warship loomed in the Nevada desert, its obsidian surface reflecting the sunset like liquid shadow. Dr. Amanda Walker stood at the base of the massive vessel, surrounded by an international team of engineers and scientists who had been working nonstop for the past 72 hours. "Their quantum drive systems are incredible," Sarah Martinez commented, her hands moving across a holographic interface they'd jerry-rigged from salvaged alien tech and Earth computers. "But look at how they've limited themselves. They never considered combining technologies in new ways." The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. Emily Walker, watching her mother's team struggle with the alien power systems, had suggested something radical. "What if we stop trying to understand their technology and start making it work with ours instead?" This teenage insight had sparked a revolution. Human engineers discovered that while Drachnid technology was advanced, it was also inflexible. By combining their quantum systems with Earth's primitive but adaptable technology, they created hybrid systems that exceeded the capabilities of either civilization alone. "Power-up sequence initiated," James Harrison announced from the makeshift control center. The salvaged warship hummed to life, but now its systems pulsed with a different energy signature, one that combined Drachnid quantum fields with human nuclear power. Commander Hayes, watching from the space station, reported movement among the remaining alien fleet. "They're detecting our activation. Multiple ships are breaking orbit to investigate." "Perfect," Amanda smiled. "Let them come. They're about to see what happens when you give humans access to advanced technology and the freedom to improvise." The hybrid ship rose from the desert floor, guided by a combination of alien anti-gravity and modified Earth flight systems. In the command center, pilots trained on flight simulators took control using interfaces that looked more like video game controllers than military equipment. "Battle Group 1, you are clear for launch," General Reynolds' voice carried across the global network. Similar scenes were playing out across the planet as more salvaged Drachnid vessels, modified by human ingenuity, prepared for combat. The alien fleet responded predictably, forming up in their standard combat pattern. They expected to face stolen ships operated clumsily by primitive beings. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented in their history of conquest. "Execute Maneuver Phoenix," Sarah commanded. The hybrid ships moved in ways the Drachnids had never seen, combining their quantum technology with human combat tactics developed over centuries of aerial warfare. Earth fighters darted between the massive alien vessels, their weapons now enhanced with salvaged Drachnid tech. "Their shields are adapting," Emily observed from her monitoring station, "but they can only respond to what they've been programmed to expect. They have no protocols for these hybrid attacks." The space above Earth became a demonstration of human creativity unleashed. Korean gamers, now piloting modified Drachnid scouts, executed maneuvers from their favorite space combat games. Russian engineers had combined their electromagnetic weapons with alien power sources, creating pulses that could disable entire capital ships. Multiple Drachnid vessels attempting emergency quantum jumps, Commander Hayes reported. But their calculations aren't accounting for our modifications to their drive signatures. They're trapped in Earth's gravity well. The alien fleet, faced with weapons and tactics they couldn't predict or counter, began to break formation. Their rigid command structure, already strained by ground defeats and biological warfare, now faced total collapse in space. "They're retreating," Amanda announced, watching the tactical display. "But not back to their empire. They're running to the outer solar system, trying to regroup." Emily pointed to new data streaming across her screen. "Mom, look at these readings. We're not just driving them back. We're learning more about their technology with every engagement. By the time they recover, we'll understand their systems better than they do." The battle for Earth's orbit had become a revolution in warfare. Humanity hadn't just survived first contact. They had taken alien technology and transformed it into something new, something that combined the best of both civilizations with human adaptability and creativity. As the hybrid fleet pursued the retreating Drachnids past the orbit of Mars, Earth's defenders knew the war had entered its final phase. Victory wasn't just possible anymore. It was inevitable. 1 month after the Drachnid retreat, Earth's skyline had changed forever. Salvaged alien architecture blended with human cities, creating a stunning hybrid of two civilizations. In Colorado, Dr. Amanda Walker stood on her laboratory's roof, watching a modified Drachnid shuttle dock with their new orbital defense platform. The last of their fleet just passed Neptune's orbit. Commander Hayes reported from the expanded space station, now a hub of Earth's growing stellar defense force. Long-range sensors show them broadcasting warnings to every system they pass through. Emily, who had become the youngest member of Earth's Xenotechnology division, pulled up the translated Drachnid transmissions on her hybrid tablet. They're calling Earth a Class X death world and warning about our biological warfare capabilities. They don't even realize those were just normal bacteria. The Global Defense Network, originally cobbled together to coordinate resistance, had evolved into humanity's first unified space command. Representatives from every nation contributed their unique perspectives to understanding and improving the alien technology they'd captured. "We're receiving new signals," Sarah Martinez announced from the London monitoring station. "Non-Drachnid vessels approaching from multiple vectors. They're using different communication protocols." The first diplomatic contact came from the Nexus Confederation, a coalition of species that had long opposed Drachnid expansion. Their ambassadors arrived in ships that displayed none of the Drachnid's rigid uniformity, instead showing a diversity of designs that immediately resonated with human observers. "We watched your defense with great interest." The Nexus ambassador, a crystalline being named Zix, addressed the United Earth Council. "No species has ever defeated a full Drachnid invasion force, let alone turned their own technology against them so effectively." James Harrison, now heading Earth's reverse engineering program, presented their findings to the amazed alien delegates. "We discovered that most galactic civilizations develop technology in a linear fashion, building upon their existing knowledge. Humanity's greatest strength was our ability to combine different approaches, finding connections others missed." The Nexus Confederation offered Earth immediate membership, but humanity had learned caution from their first contact. Instead, they negotiated a technological exchange program. Earth would share their hybrid innovations while gaining access to the galaxy's scientific knowledge. "Look at this," Amanda showed her daughter the latest data from their orbital shipyards. "We're not just copying their technology anymore. We're creating whole new fields of science by combining different civilizations' approaches. Every human innovation sparks dozens of alien breakthroughs." Earth's cities became centers of galactic culture and commerce. The same creativity that had defended the planet now drove an unprecedented boom in art, technology, and exploration. Human adaptability proved just as valuable in peace as it had in war. "The Drachnids are requesting peace talks," General Reynolds announced during a global briefing. "Their empire is fracturing. Seems other conquered species are using our hybrid technology to fight for independence." Emily, examining the latest xenobiological data, made another observation. "We're helping them, too, even if they don't realize it. Our research into their biological vulnerability is leading to treatments that could help them safely experience natural environments. Some of their younger generations are actually eager to try living without total environmental control." Commander Hayes, overseeing the launch of Earth's first completely original starship, reflected on how far they'd come. "We never wanted to be warriors, but we proved we could be if necessary. Now we're showing the galaxy what humans do best, taking different ideas and transforming them into something greater than the sum of their parts." The primitive species that had seemed an easy target for conquest had instead become a catalyst for galactic change. Humanity's greatest weapons hadn't been their improvised EMPs or hybrid warships, but their creativity, adaptability, and determination to forge connections where others saw only barriers. As Earth's first deep space expedition prepared to launch, Amanda and Emily Walker stood together watching the sunset. The stars above no longer represented distant threats, but endless possibilities. Humanity had not only survived their trial by fire, they had emerged as something new, something that combined the best of Earth and the stars. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. They had learned that their greatest strength lay not in conquering their enemies, but in transforming them into partners in exploration and discovery.